Tonight, they will begin with a conversation about President Obama's standing with African Americans.
Some of you have heard of Mr. Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy. A mogul, he's a rapper. He's worth about $700 million. Businessman, got his own line of clothes and everything. And he's wondering, since the black people got Barack Obama elected and put in office. Now, technically, if all the blacks voted for Barack Obama, he still couldn't get in office because the population don't have about 12 or 13% blacks. And believe me, all of them didn't vote. So they played their part in helping him get in office. But it was the white population and the Latino population and the Asian population that got Barack Obama elected. Now, the percentage of blacks who voted for Barack Obama was about 93, 94% on both terms.
Slippers. Put on your marching shoes. Shake it off. Stop complaining. Stop grumbling. Stop crying. We are going to press on. We've got work to do.
This is where it all started at, right here. Yes, we can.
Do you like broken homes? Yes, we can. Do you like broken communities? Yes, we can. Do you like broken families? Yes, we can.
Everything in Chicago is controlled by the Democratic Party. Everything in my community is controlled by black Democrats. There is no Tea Party in my community. There is no Republicans in my community. So they can't blame Republicans. They can't blame Tea Parties.
Most American people, especially people of my ethnicity, they don't understand that people create jobs, not government. They think if I go out to get a job, prime example, they have 1,000 jobs at Walgreens offering. You got 500,000 people standing in line. They don't understand, a lot of Americans, including people of my ethnicity, they don't understand that people, since the pop and mom shops, create jobs.
Democrats have been in control of this community for about 40 years.
Right.
And my question to you is, do you feel that it's the policies of the party have helped this community or hurt this community?
It has hurt this community because they feel like that they can just take us for granted and that we're just going to vote Democratic anyway. But if there was a Republican who was out here doing what I feel he should be doing, I would vote for him.
There have been a lot of movement where players at the table within a community that have been there for a while, but there's no effect again.
Do you think that their interest is in the community, or are they self-motivated?
I think they're self-motivated, and in a lot of cases their interest is not in the community, and in a lot of cases a lot of them don't even live in the community.
And is that black leadership or white leadership, or?
It's black leadership. It's black leadership.
What kind of support do you think that you're getting from the president, being from Chicago?
Well, right now, I haven't seen that much support from the president as far as these communities are concerned.
African Americans are still showing strong support for their nation's first black president, despite even more African Americans being unemployed since President Obama won 95% of their votes in the 2008 presidential election. Since then, unemployment within the black community has soared to 14.3%, and household income is down 11% over the previous 3 years. Despite this, many remain supportive of the incumbent president.
We're pretty confident that African Americans will obviously vote for Obama. Now, what we're really going to have to look at is who will turn out to vote. In the 2008 election, African American voter turnout was unprecedented, as we all know, at this point. And so, will those people turn out again?
Despite the ongoing slump in the economy, most black Americans are still fervent Obama supporters.
I'm voting for President Barack Obama.
And why is that?
Because President Barack Obama is making some changes.
I feel like with the Obama being in office for this next election, I think things would change and better for America regardless.
Most polls this year have revealed that a majority of African Americans believe they are better off under President Obama, but the uncomfortable truth appears not to have been digested by black voters, who, according to nearly every reliable statistic, are far worse off now than they were when Obama came to power.
He could have been such a person to bring all types of races together. Instead, he's become so divisive, you know, in his tactics as far as driving people apart. And it's sad, you know, and that's why I really despise him, to tell you the truth. And it's because he could have done so much, not only for the black community, because the black unemployment rate is so high, you know, and it's just gotten worse ever since he came into office. So, and it's really sad, you know, not only the black community, but everyone in general.
The whole country.
The whole country, you know, so, you know, it's not about black. Once you get caught up in the whole race, it's very, it's like a pot of soup. It's so collective or convoluted as far as things. People want to compartmentalize your thinking. You know, they want to get your own race, they want to get your own gender and homosexuality. We're getting attacked on all sides. You know, and it's sad. It's a fall of our society.
It is.
You know, and it's going to get worse. Yeah. Before it gets better. I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, to tell you honestly.
It's all part of their plan, pretty much.
It is.
It is.
It is. And, you know, a lot of people are not aware. Some people are so focused on certain topics, you know. But
like Cecil the Lion.
Yeah.
They care more about Cecil the Lion, or Cecil, however you pronounce it, than they do about people getting killed in their own communities. Or
right. And especially Obama, you know, did his activism. He started in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And, you know, but you know the murder rate in Chicago is extremely high.
Every day.
You know, every day. You talk about black people getting killed, black people getting killed.
Sometime, you know, half a dozen over a weekend.
Right, exactly. I mean, you know, you don't hear him, you know, every once in a while he'll pop his head out. Oh, you know, that person looks like my son. It's like, really? Black people are dying every day in LA, Chicago.
Make the news cycle for a week or 2 weeks like other issues.
Right. So he's very selective of what topics he can bring out and talk about in order to promote his agenda, let's say.
I want to ask you about African Americans. I'm hearing and reading from many, and not just Mr. Smiley and Professor West, who say you've exhibited to them what they see as a mystifying silence on the especially crippling unemployment rate, poverty, and especially where young African American males are concerned in our urban areas.
The most important poverty program is a job. And so what we talked about on Thursday will help most directly those who have the highest unemployment rate. African Americans, Latinos, rural communities, young people. And so, you know, if you look at everything we've done for the last 3 years, my entire focus has been providing ladders of opportunity for people so that they can make it. And by definition, that means that communities that are hurting more are going to get more help. But, you know, I don't think of my job as President of the United States as looking at different segments of the population.
You know, people don't remember, when I came into office, the United States, in world opinion, ranked below China and just barely above Russia. And today, once again, the United States is the most respected country on earth. And part of that, I think, is because of the work that we did to re-engage the world and say that we want to work with you as partners with mutual interest and mutual respect. It's on that basis that we were able to end 2 wars while still focusing on the very real threat of terrorism and to try to work with our partners on the ground in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. It's the reason why, you know, we've are moving in the direction of normalizing relations with Cuba. The nuclear deal that we're trying to negotiate with Iran.
I think 13% of black youth addicted to drugs, 30% of white youth addicted to drugs, 65% of convictions in America are black. If you want to deal with criminality, you ought to start on Wall Street. Look at insider trading, market manipulation, fraudulent accounting. Why is it not one executive of a Wall Street firm has been investigated or prosecuted? Many of them are dining in the White House, but actually involved in activity that is quite criminal. And it's not a matter of trashing Wall Street. Human beings are human beings. Let's have a fair rule of law, not capricious and arbitrary for the poor, targeting the poor and allowing the well-to-do to somehow get off. That's true for wiretappers. That's true for torturers under the Bush administration. Why are they walking around sipping tea when they violated the law? And let's be very honest about it. As you noted, I've accused the president himself of being a war criminal in terms of the killer list every Tuesday and engaged in activities that result in the death of innocent civilians, especially children. Those are war crimes. They're war crimes if they're committed by Americans, Russians, Ethiopians, Argentinians, Guatemalans, Africans. These are forms of activity where people ought to be accountable.
But Dr. West, we live in a two-tiered justice system where the war criminals are not prosecuted or even investigated, and instead the war crimes whistleblowers, the people who expose these war crimes, are in prison. It's a completely egregious system, and it's amazing that more people don't point this out, as poor people are the ones suffering on the other end of it. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of even the civil case launched by the Martin Luther King family, Martin Luther King Jr.'s family, that implicated the U.S. government in part for conspiracy for his assassination. I mean, why is it that 10 years on, this notion is so foreign to people, still scoffed at as nothing more than a conspiracy theory, when at the time, subject to years of COINTELPRO surveillance, death threats? I mean, this is coming. These are all declassified documents.
No, it's true. I mean, of course, the FBI had Brother Martin under surveillance from January 1956 till the day he died, April 4th, 1968. That was the U.S. government. That was JFK. That was RFK. It was Johnson all the way through. But I think, for example, of our dear sister who just died, Margaret Thatcher. Now, here's someone who called Nelson Mandela a terrorist, called the ANC a terrorist group. Here's somebody who said trade unionists in England are the enemy within. They must be crushed. And yet, what do we hear from the White House? Margaret Thatcher was a great champion of freedom. I say, why tell that lie? I pray for her family. I'm a Christian. But she was a tyrant when it came to black people in South Africa. She was a tyrant when it came to working people in Britain. Let's just tell the truth about our dear sister, whether she's alive, whether she's dead.
Our brother was selected before he was elected. Wait a minute. Now, all of you know something about kingmakers. When people in back rooms come to somebody who's popular, somebody who's intelligent, that don't speak with a Negro dialect. A light-skinned Negro. That is non-threatening to white people because they can see themselves in him because he's part them and part us. Right. This is political scheming, which Senator Reid got involved in. He didn't mean no harm. He was just talking about the white mentality.
Right, that's right.
So now, when you select a man, the man may never know what your purpose was. Because I understand that his initial victory in Iowa was financed largely by Goldman Sachs.
If this material works well, I'm going to use it at Goldman Sachs next year.
Barack Obama, African American. If I were African American, I would be so angry at him. African American youth has an almost 60% unemployment rate. African American people that are 25, primetime age, 25 to 40, have such a high unemployment rate, you wouldn't believe it. It's gone up, and it's gotten worse since he's been president. Now, he's African American. If I were African American, I wouldn't like him very much. I will do more for the African American people than Barack Obama has ever done. I'll do more in 1 year. I will do more. I will do more for the African American people in 1 year than Barack Obama has done in his 7 years, soon to be 8 years. And then, by the way, he's out, and thank goodness, okay?
You know, the whole idea of blackness, African Americanness, blackness, goes back to the so-called one-drop rule, that anybody who has, theoretically, one drop of African American blood, or African blood, that person is African American. In the first place, what's the difference in the blood? You know what I'm saying. I'm using colloquialisms and stupidity and racism right now. But the one-drop rule has applied in this country forever, hasn't it? So you can have a man like Barack Obama, whose mother was a Caucasian, his father was an African black man, and they commingle their genetic material, and out comes Barack Obama, but we're going to call him a black man. Now, I'm not going to argue with the black folk who want to claim him. I'm just wondering why white folk don't say, wait a minute, stop. He's white. Right? So anyway, 6 United States presidents may have been, quote, black, end quote, using the one-drop rule before Barack Obama. You want to hear who they are? Where did I get this, Kathy? It's out there. Thomas Jefferson. Let's start with him. In his 19-page pamphlet entitled The 5 Negro Presidents, Joel Rogers wrote that the country's 3rd president was described by a political opponent as, quote, the son of a half-breed Indian squaw and a Virginia mulatto father, end quote. Whew. How many insults are in that sentence? Now, it's no secret that Thomas Jefferson fathered children with slave woman Sally Hemings at his Monticello residence in Virginia. Any evidence of African ancestry on the part of Jefferson remains unconfirmed. All right, now we have Andrew Jackson. In his 2001 book, Black People and Their Place in History, Dr. Leroy Vaughn cites an article written in the Virginia Magazine of History that Andrew Jackson was the son of an Irish woman who married a black man. The magazine also stated that Jackson's oldest brother had been sold as a slave. This assertion remains unconfirmed. That's Andrew Jackson. Then we have Abraham Lincoln. Oh, yes, indeed. The country's 16th president is widely known as the Great Emancipator, but in his book, Joel Rogers wrote that Lincoln was, in fact, the illegitimate son of an African man, and that his mother was said to have admitted that he was the progeny of a black man. That assertion has yet to be confirmed. Warren Harding. Isn't this fun? Warren Harding, the country's 29th president, never denied his black heritage. According to Rogers, quote, Harding had black ancestors between both sets of parents. William Chancellor, a white professor of economics and politics at Worcester College in Ohio, wrote a book on the Harding family genealogy and identified black ancestors among both parents of President Harding. Justice Department agents allegedly bought and destroyed all copies of this book. Professor Chancellor also said that Harding's only academic credentials included education at Iberia College, which was founded in order to educate fugitive slaves. Hot diggity damn! Then we have Calvin Coolidge. In his book, Dr. Leroy Vaughn, Black People and Their Place in History. In his book, Dr. Vaughn claimed that the nation's 30th president, Calvin Coolidge, also had black ancestry. He wrote, Coolidge, quote, claimed his mother was dark because of mixed Indian ancestry. Coolidge's mother's name was Moore, M-O-O-R. In Europe, the name was given to all blacks. Dr. Auset Bakufu says that by 1800, the New England Indian, Native American, was hardly any longer a pure Indian because they had mixed so often with blacks. And then, of course, Dwight Eisenhower. Yeah, I know. Dr. Bakufu includes the 34th president, Dwight Eisenhower, in his book, 6 Black Presidents, Black Blood, White Masks, saying that Eisenhower's mother, Ida Elizabeth Stover Eisenhower, an anti-war advocate, was part black. So, there you go! Huh? Who cares? I care, Kathy. I think it's fascinating. Why do I care? Because of who we are, because of who we are in this country, and because of what we've done with race, and because of the way we've used it. So I think if enough Caucasoids understood this ain't no big deal, that's why it matters.
Barack had a mama, and she was white. Very white, American, Kansas, middle of America. There was no argument about who he is and what he is. America's first black president hasn't arisen yet. He's not America's first black president. He's America's first mixed race president.
Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
On the subject of race, do you think, are we better off now than we were 7 years ago?
I'm not sure that we are, and I think ultimately the president missed a moment. On every leading economic issue, on the major economic issues, black Americans have lost ground in every one of those leading categories. So for the last 10 years, it's not been good for black folk. And so this is the president's most loyal constituency that didn't gain any ground really in that period.
In a Gallup poll, some 68% said race relations were good or somewhat good back in 2008. But things flipped this past summer when 53% said race relations were bad or at least somewhat bad.
He's been boxed in by race, number one. But number two, the only way you advance in this country is for someone to lead with a moral authority. And I think on this issue, there's so much more that he could have done. Now, the debate will be, again, could he have done more, or did they tie his hands behind his back? I just think, my grandmother put it this way, there's some fights that ain't worth fighting, even if you win, but there are other fights that you have to fight, even if you lose. And some of these fights the president should have fought, and he didn't fight. And put another way, great presidents aren't born.
Are you happy with the way that Obama has been running the country? You a fan?
No.
No?
No, I really think he misinterpreted his mandate. I think a friend of mine said to me the other day, I thought it was a great line. I no longer hope for audacity.
Really?
You know, he's doubled down on a lot of things. Well, going back to that education thing, one of the things, if I were the Adjustment Bureau, this idea that we're testing kids and we're tying teachers' salaries to how the kids are performing on tests. It's just, it's a really, that kind of mechanized thinking has nothing to do with higher order thinking. We're training them. We're not teaching them.
Are you a fan of Barack Obama's?
But I'm not a fan of what he's doing at the moment.
Why?
Because I just don't think he's governing. I think he's gotten bad. I don't think he's surrounded himself with the people he could have surrounded himself with. And he's doing just what we were talking about. He's having to just lay out a certain line and hope people will believe it so he can stay in the position.
I did say President Obama's policies must fail because they are creating a socialist America. Now, why do I step out and say that, knowing I'm just going to get a whole bunch of other stuff coming back at me? It's important that we speak out. You know, if we see something amiss, that's our duty as citizens. I'm against his silence on Iran. I'm against Obama's lie that he was going to protect Israel, and now as president, he arrogantly tells them what they can do and what they can't do, as he forgot that our only hope to defend us against Iran's nuclear buildup is Israel. And I'm against his very cunning ability to push things, to rush things through without anybody having a chance to look at them. His stimulus package has failed. Slowly but surely, we can see that Obama's policies are failing. Obama is on his way to bankrupting America.
Look, he's been a horrible president. I always said the worst president was Jimmy Carter. Guess what? Jimmy Carter goes to second place. Barack Obama has been the worst president ever. The history of this country, Barack Obama is number one.
I'm going to use it at Goldman Sachs next year.
With all due respect, Dr. West, Americans did know where his campaign contributions were coming from.
That's true.
It was clear and transparent and known that Goldman Sachs and other Wall Street banks were making very large political donations to Barack Obama.
But ordinary people gave him a lot of money too.
Yes.
So you had,
small donations.
we thought that it was some balancing, because yes, he got big money from Goldman Sachs, he got big money from Wall Street oligarchs, but then he got all of this financial and spiritual and moral support from everyday people. And the trade union movement. So you would think there would be some counterbalancing, and that's what we have yet to see.
Our president just agreed to same-sex marriage. Now listen, just listen. See, if you're in that behavior, now you're freezing up on me. I'm not your enemy.
That's right. That's right.
I'm your brother.
That's right.
And I do love you. I'm not here to make you feel bad because Farrakhan is talking and he may not be that. Well, Jesus said, if you offend in one thing, you offend in them all. So the fornicator can't look at the lesbian or the homosexual and say, I'm better than you. The liar, the thief, the gambler, the pimp, the prostitute, the lowlife, you can't look at those who are gay or lesbian and transgender and say, I'm better than you. It's sin is sin according to the standard of God. You say, well, no, that was back there. You know, I mean, you know, it's a modern time now. Modern for you, but not for God. God says, I am God, and I change not. Here, you just got here yesterday, and you can't find a birth record for God. He's older than time itself. You mean to tell me he doesn't have a right to tell you how to live the life that he gave you? Are you telling me that his sovereignty is nothing? That what society says means more than what God says? Then reverend, synagogue leader, Catholic priest, is this the book that you say you believe in? But now you backing down from aspect of it because people will get offended?
think about this, all right?
You got Muslims now. I don't know how the hell they could call themselves Muslim. And they involved too. You know damn well they're not Muslim. They were set up by the enemy to create confusion in the ranks of the righteous. Here's Newsweek magazine with President Obama on the cover with the colors that represent the gay community as a halo over his head, and it's saying the first gay president. Now you think they're not mocking him? The first gay president. Now, I've never heard from Michelle that our brother, you know, was absent from duty. But he's the first president that sanctioned what the scriptures forbid. Now I want to ask a question, see? Why is it that all you politicians take your oath of office on the Bible? If the book is no good, what the hell are you using it for? To take an oath of office to uphold not the Bible, but the Constitution. But the Constitution comes out of their recognition of the value of this book. Did I say something wrong? No.